and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Does I have anything they would like to have removed from the consent agenda? Okay. We do have a special activity from a couple of distinguished gentlemen here. And first on the agenda is Prosecutor Fornshaw.
No good.
You don't want to go first?
Oh, no, I want to hear this. It would be a tough act to follow, but I do want to hear it.
I don't think so. Well, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to come out today. I'm going to pass these out to you. Copies of our annual report, and I'll keep a copy for myself. Just detailing some of our activities. Anybody else that wants one of those? Just detailing some of our activities that we've gone through in the last, I'd say the last 12 months would be the 12 months of 2021. Highlighting a number of the cases that we've handled and stuff that our civil division, victim witness division, child support enforcement division has done. 2021, interestingly enough, we kind of expected in 2020 there to be perhaps a downturn in criminal activity with things being shut down. I know you'll be shocked to learn that the criminal element did not socially distance itself from crime in 2020. Interestingly enough, we had the exact same number of felony cases in 2020 as we did in 2019. When we were running the numbers, the memo I got from my folks as they were kind of pulling the data for me was this is not a typo. It is the exact same number. The types of offenses shifted a little bit, but in terms of the overall number that we had from 2019 to 2020, that actually stayed the same. 2021, I guess good news to report is we actually saw a reasonably sized dip, 7 to 8%, which is not insignificant when you look at historically what we've typically seen. That's the first dip that we've seen really since I've been prosecutor. We're still up around 55% in terms of our overall caseload from 11 years ago when I became prosecutor until now. Much of that driven by growth, a lot of it driven by drug activity, and not necessarily just possession offenses, but all the attendant offenses that you see, whether it's robberies, burglaries, theft of grandma's checks, things like that. So, but the good news is we did see a little bit of a dip in 2021 as compared to 2020. One thing that we have not seen a dip in, and unfortunately has seen a substantial increase in, and I'm sure Chief Carroll could talk to you about this as well, is we have had an explosion, and I mean an absolute explosion in the number of pursuit cases that we've had. I can tell you 5 years ago we might get a pursuit a month, a felony level pursuit a month. We pulled the numbers, and I think in the last 14 months we've had easily 140 pursuit cases countywide. People just simply don't stop for the police when they're signaled to pull over, and in many of those instances they will engage in speeds that are well in excess of 100 miles an hour. Matter of fact, it's shocking now when we get a pursuit where the person isn't doing over 100 miles an hour. And so we have asked the judges, to some success, others not so much, but because there are so many of them, we have been asking for a minimum of 2-year prison sentence anytime we have one of those types of pursuits. I know different agencies have different pursuit policies, and obviously nobody wants civilians to get injured or hurt or anything along those lines. But it's just shocking how many of those just ordinary traffic stops just automatically turn into pursuits. And when ultimately, some of those they're captured, sometimes they're not. They're called off, and we have no way of being able to ID the individual that was involved. But there's typically a pretty good reason why that person, they're not just running because of the traffic violation that they're alleged to have committed. Another thing that I highlighted in the opening letter, and I'll bring this to your attention because it's an extraordinarily important issue to me right now personally, is this past year I was elected as an officer of the State Prosecutors Association, so it's made up of the other 87, there's 88 total county prosecutors in the state of Ohio, one for each county. And in that position, I've been spending more and more time in Columbus. I know the sheriff with Buckeye State Sheriff's Association, served in a leadership position with that organization. And there is currently pending in the Ohio Senate a criminal justice omnibus bill. That's a kind of a complicated way of saying it's 1,800 pages of bad. I don't know any other way to describe it. It's basically every bad criminal justice bill that has been introduced in the last 2 years put into one single bill. They threw in a couple of things that make it sound good, but there's no doubt it's 1,800 pages of bad. And I've got a 5-page memo that I've distributed to the sheriff. I've distributed it to Chief Carroll. But the things that are in it range from everything from making it more difficult to prosecute a child sex offender, by the defendant being able to say, well, I didn't really know that they were under the age of 13, which, I mean, they're still too young, but it makes it more difficult to do that. Aggravated robberies, for example. Typically, if somebody goes in with a gun and they brandish the gun and they commit a robbery, or if they fire the gun and they commit a robbery, that would be an aggravated robbery. If they commit a theft offense along with that, that would be an aggravated robbery. Now they actually have to injure you in the process in order for that to be an aggravated robbery, which is just absolutely ridiculous. If somebody comes in with the gun, that should be enough for the force element to be an aggravated robbery. They're wanting to cap the number of years that you can get on the serial offenders. So, for example, if somebody commits a series of aggravated robberies, if you commit the first one, you might as well just keep committing them because we're just going to cap it on whatever the maximum is for that first offense. Like I said, I'm just highlighting some of this stuff. It's 1,800 pages of bad, and I've been pretty active in terms of reaching out to our state representatives and our state senator to try to convince them that this is just a horrible, horrible bill. I will send to you the memo that I circulated to the chiefs and the sheriff, just showing you just the lowlights, if you will, and it's a 5-page summary, but it doesn't even scratch the surface of all the stuff that's in it. And I don't understand why there's any movement on that particular bill. I think it's because there's a few things here and there that make it sound really well. But this is since I've been county prosecutor, I know our association. This is by far the biggest push we've had on any piece of legislation in the last 11 years. And the thing that I don't understand is it's coming at a time where it's not a partisan issue at all. As a matter of fact, I was talking to a colleague the other day. My Democratic colleagues, big D Democratic colleagues, in places even like Cuyahoga County, Mike O'Malley, that's the most politically liberal area in the state, and Mike O'Malley is just losing his mind over this bill because he understands he's got significant issues that are going on from a violence standpoint in Cleveland. This legislation seems to be extraordinarily tone deaf as to what is going on in the world, and we see what happens in some of your cities, whether it's San Francisco or Los Angeles, where they've done stuff like this, and now those district attorneys who have just uniformly said, I'm not going to prosecute those kind of cases, are now being recalled because of the explosion of crime in those areas. So I don't understand why we're wanting to try to head the direction that even they are trying to come back from. But nonetheless, that's going on right now, and I would encourage you to please reach out to your representative and senator and tell them that you do not support this particular bill.
Who is pushing this?
Nathan Manning, who is the sponsor of the bill, he's a criminal defense attorney from the northern part of Ohio. He is the sponsor. And then Bill Sykes in Hamilton County, who champions himself as a criminal justice reformer. But it's just there's just no way around it. It's just 1,800 pages of bad. And I guarantee you that not a single one of those representatives, I shouldn't say not a single one, probably those two are the only ones that actually know what's in that bill. There's no possible way that, I spent a week and a half on just one of the code sections, just breaking it down. And that was, I spent a week and a half worth of time just looking at that one code section, highlighting, these are, and admittedly, there's probably 3 or 4 things in that code section I'm like, I can live with this is a good idea, you do need to clean this up, this is a little bit confusing, that's fine. You want to make a possession of a nuclear weapon a first-degree felony, I'm okay with that. But there's just so much other stuff in there. For every 3 things that are good, there's 25 things that are just horrible. But you're not going to hear about the horrible. You're just going to hear about the 3 things that are good. So that's something that I'm really hammering on because it's such a bad bill. The other thing that we're seeing, I talked about pursuits and whatnot, but as I looked down, I was looking at violent offenses. Cameron Henderson, I looked at that case and it popped up. The other thing that we are seeing a significant increase is in the seriousness of offenses that are being committed by juveniles. Whereas once before, there's kind of a threshold where once you got below maybe 17, you didn't see certain levels of violence. We're seeing a significant increase in extraordinarily violent offenses, carjackings. I know people, aggravated robberies, thefts of cars. The good news is, if you will, most of the defendants that we're seeing in these kind of cases are not Warren County kids. I guess that's a good thing, but we also, people aren't recognizing borders, so we have people coming in from other areas, predominantly south, actually. The good news for all of you is a lot of these cases that we've seen with the juveniles are coming up from Cincinnati more so. Drugs come from Dayton and the violence comes from Cincinnati. I guess that's kind of how we're seeing it right now.
Deal.
Deal, yeah, I guess. But nonetheless, it's keeping my criminal division, my juvenile division, pretty busy. That's another thing that's going on right now with this criminal justice bill. It's going to make it more difficult for us to prosecute juvenile offenders. We had this conversation last week, and there's another piece of legislation that does that. Right now, in Cuyahoga County, if you commit an aggravated robbery, the standard practice from the judges in Cuyahoga County now, because of certain legislation, our judge takes a little bit different view of it, but the standard practice is you get probation if you commit a aggravated robbery, meaning you go in, you hold a convenience store clerk up at gunpoint, and you're a juvenile, you get probation. You don't get any type of time in DYS because they shrunk the DYS facilities from 12 state facilities down to 3. So they've made it extraordinarily difficult to send anybody to DYS, and Cuyahoga County just had a case where a teenage girl who was 16 had committed a series of these aggravated robberies, had ended up getting probation every single time, and then she's out on probation, if you will, and she killed a cop. So, they're shocked. In a robbery, by the way. It was an armed robbery. She killed a police officer for his wallet. So, off-duty police officer for his wallet. So, in any event, it's just, we're seeing a significant amount of that level of violence go younger and younger. And I don't know what the answer is in terms of stemming it to begin with, but we have to have the tools as public safety professionals to be able to, nobody wants to make somebody into a career criminal, but we've got juveniles who are already acting like career criminals, and we have to do something to try to protect the rest of society. So there's a number of different criminal things that you can, criminal cases that you can look in there, and just kind of get an update as to the things that we've done. We had a very successful year. A lot of times people think once we get the trial done with, the case is over. Appeals is a whole other element of it, particularly in the criminal realm. So Kirsten Brand is our primary person that handles our appeals, and she's done an outstanding job this year. I talked about the juvenile division. One good thing we started this year was the juvenile court. Judge Kirby and our office worked together to start juvenile court. These are good kids for the most part who are volunteering for the juvenile court. I say we started the juvenile court. It's I can't remember what the exact name of it is, but nonetheless, it's youth court. I'm sorry, youth court. And so youth court, you have volunteers, students who come in and they serve as the prosecutor, or they'll serve as the defense attorney, or the jury, or the judge, or the bailiff. They serve all the roles. And the particular defendants in those cases are juveniles. They've already admitted guilt, and so it's really a sentencing hearing more so than anything. And so it's given us an opportunity to bring kids in and give them some exposure to what maybe some of their peers, if you will, are doing out there, and give them an idea of what we try to do in the justice system. So that's been a really good thing that we've been able to experience this year. And our Child Support Enforcement Agency, they continue to do an outstanding job in terms of their efficiency of collecting child support. We collect over $40 million a year our office does in child support. Nobody's usually happy when you're in a child support hearing. You know, somebody's mad they're paying, somebody's mad that they're not getting paid, but they deal with those volatile situations very well. A couple final things. Keith Anderson, you see, is named our outstanding team member this year. Keith is retiring in June, so if you get a chance to congratulate Keith on 30-plus years in the prosecutor's office. He's one of those people that you go to a lot, and a lot of people go to a lot, and just bounce ideas off of, and we know we're going to miss him, but I don't think we know how much we're going to miss him until he actually leaves. But he was recognized by his colleagues this year as being the outstanding team member for the prosecutor's office. And then we did have one retirement this year, Scott Mail, who has been our chief investigator for quite some time, been an investigator for over 30 years in the office. He retired back in January of 2021. So Scott has been missed, but we've tried to keep rolling. Again, I just want to try to go through pretty quick. I know it's still long, but I appreciate the opportunity to get to serve you, and appreciate everything that you all do, obviously, for Quick Creek Township, and I enjoy getting to work with Chief Terrell and the Quick Creek Township officers. I was glad to see the promotions, excited for the people who got promoted recently. That was exciting for our office as well to see that kind of thing going on. So, be happy to answer any questions that you have at this point.
I have any questions? Good. Well, we appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
For Clear Creek Township, and you know, Keith represented us for many years.
Yeah.
Did an outstanding job.
Yeah, he's a good dude, and like I said, we're gonna miss him. I don't think we even know how much we're gonna miss him until he'll be gone. He's like, I can't talk to Keith about that. So, yeah. Thank you all very much. I've got more stuff to get to, so I'm gonna sneak out.
Yeah.
Okay.
No worries.
All right. Thank you very much.
Here.
Thank you.
Sheriff?
All right.
Yes, sir. Come on up.
Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Guess we had our wires crossed, so I kind of barged in, I think, from the agenda maybe, but...
My fault.
No worries. Listen, I just appreciate, I was looking this year when I started scheduling these, this is, you know, my 14th year. The voters haven't quite figured it out yet, I guess, so I'm hearing you're stuck with me for a few more years. But I have always enjoyed this opportunity, just to kind of get in front of you and just share a few things. And, you know, as I will add on to what David said just briefly, I have been fortunate, I think that's what I would call it, to sit on the Criminal Sentencing Commission for Ohio for a number of years. And we've seen these efforts, no matter which side you're on of this, reduction in sentencing for quite a few years, and some of it I think we could probably agree with. You know, go back into the 70s and 80s when they were really putting some pretty high sentences in place. But there's still that continual effort, and I sit on a committee with this bill that he's talking about, this omnibus bill, that started out by just being we're going to pick out the low-hanging fruit that both political entities, criminal defense, and prosecution can agree with, and it just kind of blew up into something a lot more than that. But all the law enforcement, prosecution side of things are trying to fight this to get it squeezed down. But all that being said, there's not a whole lot different in the end of the year report for us that you typically see. He mentioned the last couple of years, as we've all seen. The good news is everybody's meeting in person now for the first time in 2 years. All the meetings that I've got the ability to schedule, everybody's back in place, which is nice to see. And the calls for service, I'm sure same with your law enforcement side of things, are back up to where they were pre-pandemic, and I don't know that that's a positive, but you can take it either way, I guess. The activity's back to where it was. The biggest thing that we had, as most of you know, is we moved into our new sheriff's office and jail, and hopefully you guys will be moving into your new facility later on this year. It's a marvelous building. We worked through some of those new building issues that probably most people would experience for the first couple months. We're 5 months in now, and things are pretty well settled in. I think everybody appreciates where we're at. The jail, when we moved, had just under 300 inmates. We're still at about that, which is a good thing. I think the courts have established long ago to try to take advantage of those alternatives, which is a good thing. If somebody can stay out of jail and be productive and follow the rules, that's what we prefer them to do than taking up bed space. And right now it's holding pretty steady that way, and hopefully the jail will last all of us and the county a long time. So, but other than that, I really don't have a whole lot more to add. Just wanted to get here and say hey everybody and see if you have any questions of me, and that's pretty much it.
Anybody have any questions for the sheriff? Anybody out there have anything? Nope.
Well, thank you all. It's a great relationship I think we all have, and like I said, appreciate the opportunity to get around and see everybody.
Well, thank you for everything you do to help us out. I know you work well with the chief and his crew. It's a good thing.
One day I look forward to having these bionic limbs and everything, maybe, I don't know. Although from what I heard described at the airports, maybe I shouldn't, I don't know.
Good levels of enjoyment, yeah.
But thank you all.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks. Okay. Public comment. Pete, you got anything you want to talk about today?
Well, I'd like to see what you fellas have found out from this.
Come on up. I did talk to,
Neil?
I talked to Neil on Thursday. Didn't get to him until Thursday, and I haven't talked to Ryan even about that. He's gonna have, and I can't remember his name, this guy call you and come up again and take.
Oh, he is?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was as of Thursday afternoon.
Well, he called me a fact.
Neil did?
Neil did,
Good.
and we don't agree.
Okay. What do you have to say?
Well, he'd like to have easement through my house.
Okay?
So, I can't agree with that.
Gotcha.
He's got an easement. Or, it's got an easement, 20, or really 30 feet uncut.
That'd be on the north, or you're talking about on the north side of your property?
Between me and the neighbor, 15 on me, 15 on the neighbor. It's been there. It's been yours. You got 50 feet easement from the circle there.
Well, we'll talk to him about that.
And he goes down to lot.
I offer to meet out there when you guys go out,
Okay.
and I think Neil's coming too. I said, why don't you come too, I'll come, and whoever else
Right.
up here wants to come and see if there's something. And I don't know, Pete's telling us he doesn't want to use the easement he's got. I don't really understand that myself, and now maybe you do, I don't know.
I was told something completely different, so.
Okay. Well, we're gonna get him up here.
But this time, I asked him to come up.
Me too.
And I've also asked Archer to come down. I haven't seen his road.
Well, maybe we can get something going
Well,
again.
what you got, I've got a dumping ground.
Yep.
50 feet of that easement, it goes down to lot 185. I'm 186. Those two lots, it stops right there, and then it cuts across with a 30 foot, 15 on the end, 15 on the neighbor. He come in and cut that old creek, might have taken a turn about it. Now you see how it dug out, washed out, made it a dumping ground on it. So anyway,
Yeah.
this gentleman here, he came down and opened the engineer, I think laid it out the way he needed it done. But what did they do? They didn't fill it back up. What they did, they just made it to dump leaves in. So now, you can drive down there, begin on the Larkspur, look at the rest that's in there. We even still, when we get a pretty good length, come right in on them. They just relied on picking on that lot. But I've often, I have wondered what happened to the other 20 feet. They got 30 feet, turning lot 186, or 185, 186. Got 30 feet left, but it was 50 feet down Newton.
So
One or the other.
it's
But
50
now my
feet
engineer is saying,
50 feet until it gets to those two lots.
oh, what does that take? And they put a smaller drain on lot 186, or 185, and they did mine. It's like I told Putty, or not Putty, Petty. I said, that's like trying to put a camel through an eye of a needle. I mean, the water.
Okay, well, we'll try, he says he's gonna get ahold of Brian, and they're gonna come up. That was on Thursday, it's about 1 o'clock, I talked to him. And so, if you don't hear from him, call him.
Oh.
And did you guys get a chance to call
I
him?
left him a voicemail. He did not have,
Call him again.
he got more clout than I did.
You know, this, yeah, he made my place and not through that.
Yeah,
But he
okay.
came in, I dreamed not having a pipe, you know, under the ground, large spur down to the cover down there. I never found it, and when it started washing out, I kind of dug down, I didn't find no pipe down there. But he dug down and had his help. They didn't find nothing down there, all they found was a bunch of rock.
Okay,
But
all right.
Anyway,
Well, we'll let you know as soon as, when we hear from him that he's coming up.
okay, but I appreciate it.
Okay, all right, Pete.
Thank you, Ed.
Yep, see you.
Uh-huh.
Fiscal business.
Just a short acknowledgement of the Warren County Treasurer. They're changed their policy to give us our money sooner in advance. So,
Oh.
yeah, they decided to give us our money ahead of time like they were supposed to. Historically, they mixed us in with a different group of people, so we would end up with small advance, and then a huge settlement when it was time. And the problem is that they were making the money
Right.
off of our money. And so, yeah, it took 2 years for them, but now we're in the same group that the schools get the money, so we're getting a lot more money, and we're making more money off. We actually turn that money over to Star, and we start making money off of it the day after we do that. So we're making more money off of that money instead of the county. So we wanted to let you know that it took them a while, but they did. That's good. That's it for me, sir.
That's all you have?
That's it.
Okay. Moving on to new business, police. Recommendation to purchase 2 new Ford Interceptors.
We're gonna try to get in line to purchase some Ford Interceptors. This is the only vehicle that's been able to be ordered, and the cutoff is this week, I believe. So we're hoping to get them, but police vehicle's been very hard to get a hold of. So Montrose Ford has the state bid for the 2 cruisers at $78,140, $48. They asked the board to approve that, and then the vehicle upfit from Park Public Safety is $38,439 for both cars, for a total of $116,579.48. So
Par is also state bid. We received a tender from them, one of them.
and we don't know if we'll get it this year or not.
Oh, understood.
Are these replacement or additional?
They're gonna replace 2 of the older cars. One is already at 100,000, the other one is getting very close to 100,000.
Are they what are they? The older Dodges?
Yeah, they're older Dodges, yeah. So they'll be probably well above our normal cycle for getting rid of them, but if we can get the cars this year, so.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for the chief about this purchase? Is there a motion to approve the purchase of the 2 Ford Interceptors?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Mearsclaw?
Yay.
Mr. Gabbard?
Yay.
Mr. Wilson?
Yay. Okay, and then we have a recommendation to accept a bid of Legends Fitness to purchase fitness equipment.
This is getting ready for the new building. They need about a 7, 8, 9-month lead time to build the equipment. They actually built it from scrap, starting off, so
In the United States.
yeah, we put it out to 3 companies. One of them didn't even talk to us and gave no bid. The other one, it involved some overseas shipments, so we were concerned as to what we'd even see those. Legend is in Tennessee. They actually build in Tennessee and close enough to get to if we need something, and they say they can provide that on time. So this year's load funds, $22,320. What's earmarked for that? We'll put that toward it. We've got some seas funds we're going to look at using to help supplement that. And then we did budget into the budget of the new building. So this is again trying to get ahead of the supply chain on when we can get it. So we're trying to order everything early with what we've got going on. So the total amounts of $49,993. 82. I'd ask the board to approve that.
Anybody have any questions about this purchase?
You don't have any fitness equipment now?
No, we do not.
This is gonna be like a voluntary, how many people's gonna be using it?
It is voluntary. There has been a pretty substantial push for police studies on fitness. I know that in the past, personnel have asked maybe incorporate something into that, something we have to look at, but the need to try to get there and stay fit is a part of staying healthy with what we do and stuff, and that's very difficult when you got families and stuff to find some time away from that. So if it's convenient here for them, I think it would be appropriate to look at trying to promote that amongst our officers. So.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, is there a motion to purchase the Legend Fitness equipment?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Gabbard?
Yay.
Mr. Mearsclaw?
Yay.
Mr. Wade?
Yay. And we have a recommendation to accept a donation of $200 for Safety Town from Steve Halstead and Sandra Gooch.
Yeah, Steve was in a couple of weeks ago, and I wrote a $200 check. They'd like to apply towards Safety Town, so I'd ask the board to accept that.
Motion to accept this donation.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Mearsclaw?
Yay.
Mr. Gabbard?
Yay.
Mr. Wade?
Yeah. Anything else at this time, Chief? Okay, Fire District, our presentation of the district's 2021 report.
Yeah, the copy of the report was in your packet. Just a couple things to highlight is we had another record-setting year, very significant increase in total calls, 3931 total, which is pretty significant from the year before, and then also a big spike in simultaneous calls. So, when we get one call, we get another. Happens quite frequently. With that, our response time for the year was 6 minutes and 20 seconds. That's creeped up quite a bit over the last 5 years. For example, in 2017, it was 5 minutes and 44 seconds. So that's why the fourth station will help significantly with that. One thing we did implement this year is a EMS supervisor position, and they've been responding first responder in a SUV versus sending a large fire apparatus, so it's a little quicker, a little more nimble, much less expensive to do it that way. And that's actually brought the response time down a little bit past 3 months. So we'll leverage that as much as we can until we get the full station built.
Okay.
Some training, we did 9,305 hours of training, which is pretty significant for the year, which equates to about 153 hours per person. And some train more than others, but on average over 150 hours of training per year. So that's that's on top of all their other workload. And then on the last page, we just talked about our accomplishments for the year with our promotions, hiring our 10 new people, and our new rescue pumper. That's the new truck. We should get that in the next few weeks. It'll take a little while to get it upfitted. Got to send it to a couple places to get the compartments organized, the radios installed, and then get everybody checked off on operating the vehicle. So we're hoping to see it in service this summer. I'd be more happy to answer any questions the board might have.
Do I have any questions for Chief?
We went and actually personally looked at that pumper this past month, didn't we?
This past week, yeah. Yeah, Captain Knoll, Lieutenant Scott, and firefighter paramedic Jordan Holbrook had went down this past week for 2 days. They did the punch list. They found a few things that need to be fixed. Everything's on their end, pretty short compared to a lot of those kinds of visits. So we should get the truck here in a few weeks.
Good.
Yeah, very exciting. Yeah, the committee's done a fantastic job of getting that truck up and running. Lieutenant Scott's been heading that committee and doing real well.
Anything else at this time? Anybody have any questions for Chief Agenbrod? Okay. Moving on to administration, a recommendation to accept Otoma's renewal of the property and casualty insurance.
Yeah, I don't have anything specific to speak to. This, not unlike any other bills, has a slow creep upward as the values continue to increase. There's nothing special that Pat and I talked about last week when he brought it in.
Kept the building values up to where they need to be.
They are, and obviously we don't have those buildings on our insurance certificate yet because they're still oswald, so we're going to take those over until we get the keys. But we've got some new equipment. We're going to get some new equipment here soon, so I would expect next year we'll probably see another 3-4% creep too. But it's cost of business.
No, it is. Is there a motion to accept the recommendation for Otoma and pay this bill?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Gabbard?
Yay.
Mr. Mearsclaw? Yay. Mr. Wade?
Yay. Anything else at this time? Planning and zoning. Request of the Wellspring Baptist Church on State Route 73 to waive conditional use hearing fees.
Yeah, so it's not uncommon for churches and schools to come before this body and ask for a reduction or a waive of fees. They're expanding yet again, so they need to have it reviewed by the Board of Zoning Appeals, and if that's successful, then have an application. So they're asking for those fees to be waived. They're looking about $700 fee waived. So we have waived them in the past, but it takes your action to do so.
Right. Yeah, we've always waived for churches and schools. Not that we have to continue, but is there a motion to waive the fees?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Mearsclaw? Yay. Mr. Gabbard?
Yay.
Yay. Is that all you have?
That's it. Yeah, thanks.
Road and Park?
I don't have anything this time.
All right. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Gabbard?
Yay.
Mr. Mearsclaw?
Yay.
Mr. Wade?
Yay. Staff updates? Nothing, nothing. Okay, so a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Mearsclaw?
Yay.
Mr. Gabbard?
Yay.
Mr. Wade?